Hello, and welcome to Leadership Trail Mix. I am Miguel Oliveira, and for the next few minutes we'll be together looking at one of the many ingredients that compose this art and science we call people leadership. Today, we'll focus on two things we don't talk much about in our workplaces: kindness and forgiveness, looking at it through two objects that will offer us some analogies: a little pebble and a full mug. If you've heard prior episodes of Leadership Trail Mix, you probably know that I am a big fan of definitions, so let's start there. Kindness is commonly defined as the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate, or as an act that benefits others without expecting anything in return. It's more than politeness, it's intentional, voluntary, and often requires empathy and effort. Kindness is also more than niceness. And on that note, I came across a short video where Trevor Noah is having a chat with Simon Sinek, and at some point he says something impactful. Niceness is the performance of kindness, but not necessarily the action. So no, the ask here is not for us to be nice, even though I don't think that being nice can hurt anyone. And that's where the little pebble and the full mug come into place. Full disclosure, the little pebble is not mine. It came from AI. Well, kind of. I typed two words: kindness, synonym. And this is what Gemini got back with. A list of questions that were a lot better than my prompt. So there was some shade being thrown at me there, which is fine, because I did pick one of the AI proposed prompts, and that took me to an answer from an identifiable human being, Dr. David Hamilton. The question was, what is a good metaphor for kindness? And the response attributed to Dr. David was, and here I quote, "I have used the analogy on many occasions that an act of kindness is like a pebble dropped in a pond. Just as the pebble lifts lily pads at the other side of the pond, so an act of kindness lifts the person you help, but also many of those connected to that person." The act of throwing the pebble in a pond requires intentionality, requires a choice, a decision to do so, and requires effort. It can have an impact beyond what our eyes are able to see, either in the moment or once time has passed. Okay, but what about the full mug, Miguel? Good. I thought you would never ask. Thank you. The full mug concept I learned from a fellow Brazilian who also works in HR. Her name is Luciede Manduca. And at the end of the year, she posted a video on LinkedIn reading some old handwritten pages she found while doing an end-of-the-year cleanup. Her words are very provocative. She says, and here I quote, "You're walking around with your coffee mug. Suddenly, someone pushes you, making you spill coffee everywhere. Why did you spill the coffee? Because someone pushed me. Wrong answer. You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your mug. What if it was tea? You would have spilled tea. Whatever you have in your mug, that's what you will spill. So, when life pushes you, whatever you have inside of you, that's what you will spill. What do I have in my mug? When life gets hard, what is it that I will spill? Joy, gratitude, peace, goodness, humility, or anger, bitterness, harsh words, harsh reactions. So, the real work is for us to fill our own mugs with gratitude, forgiveness, joy, positive and loving words, generosity, and love. You are responsible for what you have in your mug." End quote. While I love the pebble, and I think we should all be looking for opportunities to throw pebbles in the pond, I think the mug is a lot more realistic. Because let's be honest, life is constantly pushing us. Sometimes gently, sometimes with a hard shove. That's life. And in this world where immediatism is everywhere, it is in those split seconds between stimulus and response, that space between the two, that's where our real impact is. I said earlier that I love definitions, and another thing that I love is real-life examples. And here's where I want to introduce you to a person who, for reasons that will become obvious, I see as an example of kindness. Let me introduce you to Profeta Gentileza. He's one of Brazil's most fascinating and poetic figures, a man who turned tragedy into a lifelong mission of kindness. In the early 1960s, a devastating fire at a circus in Niterói, a city near Rio, claimed hundreds of lives, including many children. Amid the grief and chaos, a man called José da Trino felt a calling, a voice within urging him to abandon his material life and dedicate himself to spreading love and compassion. He left everything behind and became Profeta Gentileza, or the Prophet of Kindness. Gentileza wandered the streets of Rio, dressed in flowing robes, carrying banners inscribed with words of peace, love, and spiritual wisdom. His mantra was simple yet profound. Gentileza gera gentileza, or kindness begets kindness. He wrote these words on viaduct pillars, turning gray concrete into living poetry. His writings were mystical, sometimes cryptic, but always rooted in the belief that humanity could heal through gentleness and generosity. Can you imagine Profeta Gentileza walking through bustling streets, speaking softly to strangers, offering comfort to the weary, and challenging the harshness of modern life with his unwavering kindness? His presence was a reminder that even in a world of haste and indifference, beauty blooms when we choose empathy. Today, his words still echo across Brazil, painted on walls, sung in songs, and remembered as a cultural treasure. Profeta Gentileza taught that kindness is not weakness. It's a revolutionary act, a force that transforms pain into hope, inspires, and connects. Here we have an example of both. Life pushed a man with a tragedy, which, by the way, he was not directly exposed to. He wasn't there in the circus when the fire happened. But that event pushed him, and what he had inside of himself was kindness. And that's why he spilled. Initially in a reactive way, but then in a more intentional, pebble-throwing-like way. Beautiful, right? I think it is. And here, I want to digress for a quick minute to talk about the role of accountability in kindness and mercy. Going back to the full mug, it's easier to extend kindness to someone we don't know than to someone we do know. Certainly, there are times to offer kindness to a stranger. We don't know their circumstances. We just have a moment where we can go above and beyond niceness and truly offer kindness in that moment. But most of our interactions are with people we know, people who make mistakes, who maybe hurt us, and to whom we have a choice to offer kindness or not to. It may at times feel as if offering kindness or mercy means we are letting people off the hook for any consequences or accountability for their actions. I get it, but we need to understand that accountability and consequences are not the same as punishment. A dear friend of mine, Rachel McClare, recently told me kindness or mercy doesn't erase our consequences, but actually invites us to take accountability in a healthy way. Punishment is used to sometimes get our attention. In our adult relationships, however, punishment isn't typically helpful, but actually becomes a way for us to be unhealthy, exercise power or dominance, and often destroys the relationship entirely." End quote. In our adult relationships, we have an opportunity to allow consequences while extending kindness, which invites the other person to take accountability. They may or may not choose to, but our kindness acts as that invitation. In a second moment in the video I referred to earlier, Simon Sinek says, kindness isn't just something we give. It's something we have to learn how to receive, because community only works when it flows both ways. Kindness rebuilds bridges. Rebuilding starts with forgiveness, and forgiveness starts with kindness. Again, not only towards others, but towards ourselves too. Many times, we think that by not forgiving, we are only hurting the other person, but I don't believe there is such a thing. If there is a gap between me and you, we are both at a loss. Don't get me wrong, there is a cost to kindness, usually the cost of letting go, which we many times don't do, because we are afraid to lose who we are without holding forgiveness back. My own experiences, however, make me believe that when we extend kindness and forgive, we may lose many things, but those are rarely good things or things we were supposed to have anyway. Our call to action today is, as I've come to realize is the case more often than not, a twofer. 2 in 1. The first one is about ourselves. What do we have in our cups? What do we spill when life pushes us? Is there any moment where, for whatever reason, we didn't go back to the scene of a relational crime and either abandon the relationship altogether or, even worse, are still in it, but it's still broken? And when it comes to our teams, let's reflect on these questions. Are we nurturing workplace cultures where kindness and the ability to forgive others is not present? Are we taking advantage of hostility and calling it healthy competition while making the gap between people get larger and larger? If so, do we really believe that this is fostering the one team mentality that is so important for our teams to get to better results? That's all for today. If you have any thoughts about this episode or anything else really, please send me an email, miguel@leadershiptrailmix.com. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, take care, and talk soon.